What's you best walked into a bar joke? A dyslexic man walks into a bar. An Irishman walks into a bar and orders 2 pints of beer. The bartender says he can only serve drinks one at a time. The Irishman replies, "See, here's the thing. I grew up on a farm in Ireland with my brother, and every day after we were done working we'd go to the pub for a pint together. One day our father passed away and left us the farm, but it wasn't big enough to support both of us and our families, so we decided that since I was the younger brother I'd go to America to seek my fame and fortune. However, we also agreed that at the end of the day we'd go into the local pub and each have 2 pints, one for us and one for our brother across the pond. The bartender decides to go ahead and serve him the 2 pints. The Irishman drinks them both, pays and leaves. This goes on for a while until one day the Irishman comes in and orders a single pint. The bartender brings him the pint and asks, "Is your brother okay?" The Irishman replies, "Oh, my brother's fine. I just quit drinking." A red-headed man walks into a bar and sits next to another red-headed man. He orders a Guinness, and the second red-headed man turns to him. "I'm guessing from that accent you're from Dublin?" he asks in an Irish brogue. "Of course." The first guy exclaims, "Here, bartender, get this guy a Guinness, too." Their exchange continues. "First, let me ask you, what street did you grow up on?" "Second, St. Catherine Street." "And you?" "First, St. Catherine Street, same as you." "Second, here, bartender, get this guy a Jameson." "What school did you go to?" "First, St. Joseph's Boys Academy." "Second, son of a bitch, I went to St. Joe's too." "Bartender, get this guy a Jameson." This continues, and as they find they had the same teachers and knew the same neighborhood kids, they proceed to get louder and drunker until a guy at the other end of the bar asks the bartender, "What's up with those two?" The bartender shrugs and says, "It's the O'Shaughnessy twins, they are drunk again." A man walks into a bar and immediately notices 3 big cuts of meat hanging from the ceiling. He walks up and asks the bartender about them. Bartender replies, "That's our nightly game here. If you can jump up and hit one of those pieces of meat, you drink for free all night. But if you miss, you buy a round for everyone in the bar." So the man looks up at the meat, looks around the bar counting up the patrons, and finally turns to the bartender and says, "No, can't do it. The stakes are too high." "Why does Helen Keller play the piano with one hand?" "Because she sings with the other." "Have you seen the new Helen Keller doll? You wind it up and it walks into walls." "What did Helen Keller's parents do to punish her?" "Rearranged the furniture, washed her hands without soap, put her in a round room and told her there was a penny in the corner." You know the problem with Helen Keller jokes, Foggy. It's that you've heard them all in Braille before. A man on a business trip found himself in a small town for a few hours, so he decided to walk around the town while he waited for his flight. After a short wee walk, he stumbled upon a bar with a sign outside that said, "Best Punch in the County." The man was a big fan of punch, and was also very thirsty, so he thought he'd check it out. He walks into the bar and goes up to the bartender and says, "I'd like a glass of your famous punch." The bartender pointed behind the man and said, "You'll have to get in line." The man turned around and there was nothing there. A grasshopper walks into a bar. The bartender says, "Hey, we have a drink named after you." The grasshopper says, "You have a drink named Steve." A string walks into a bar and orders a beer. Bartender says, "We don't serve strings here." String goes outside, ruffles and contorts himself up, goes back in and orders a beer again. The bartender says, "I already told you that we don't serve strings here." "I'm afraid not." A man walks into a bar to see another guy chugging something. He asks the guy, "What are you drinking?" The guy says, "It's magic beer." Watch. The guy then went up to the roof, jumped off, and flew around the building 3 times before landing back on his stool. "Cool. Can I try a sip?" The guy smirked and said, "Sure." When the man went to the roof, he proceeded to fall straight to the ground, breaking an insane amount of bones. The bartender said, "You know, you're a real ass when you're drunk, Superman." A guy walks into a bar and asks the bartender for a rum and coke. Bartender says, "Sure, you got it," and pulls an apple from behind the bar and hands it to him. Guy asks, "What the hell is this?" Bartender tells him, "Just try it, trust me." The guy takes a bite of the apple and exclaims, "That tastes like rum." He takes a bite of the other side and it tastes like coke. "This is awesome," he proclaimed as he finished the rest of the apple. Another second guy walks into the bar and orders a Jack and Coke. The bartender gives him an apple, goes through the same explanation, and the guy is equally amazed as he eats his apple. A third guy walks in, sees the apple cores on the bar and asks what's going on. The first guy tells him, "Ask the bartender for anything and he can give you an apple that tastes like it." Skeptical, the third guy clarifies, "Anything," to which the bartender nods. The third guy smiles, asks him for an apple that tastes like pussy. Without hesitation, the bartender reaches behind the bar and hands the guy an apple. He eagerly takes his first bite and almost immediately spits it out. "This tastes like ass," he screams. The bartender just looks at him and smiles. Turn it around. A guy walks into a bar and orders a Jack and Coke. Bartender says, "Is Pepsi okay, guys? I mean, it's not ideal, but I've had a rough day, so I guess it's fine." Bartender brings him his drink and he takes a nice long swig. After a second he spits it out and says, "That's disgusting." "What the fuck is that?" Bartender says, "Pepsi and Coke." It's 9 o'clock at night and a military officer walks into a bar in uniform. As he's ordering a drink, a fine lil thing walks up to him and asks, "So soldier, when was the last time you saw action?" He informs the lady that he just got back from his latest tour. She continues saying with a flirty look, "Not that kind of action, sir," to which he responds with, "Oh, in that case I would have to say 2010. She then asks him ever so kindly, "Would you like to change that to 2019? The officer smiles and replies, "You are more than welcome to try." They go back to her hotel room and after they finish doing the do, he says, "Well, we tried our hardest but it's only 2340. Maybe we'll go till 2019 next time." Edit. I can't spell words right. A Jewish man, a black man, and an Arab man walk into a bar. They have a lovely time and all get home safe because nobody involved was a racist. The joke itself isn't very funny, but I tell this joke whenever I meet someone and watching their reaction as you go through the whole thing is both informative and hilarious. A guy walks into a bar. He walks up to the counter and orders a beer. He asks if there's anywhere to sleep. The bartender tells him to find the innkeeper. He goes and talks to the innkeeper, who lets him rent a room. When he gets to the room, he finds a woman lying in his bed. She asks if he'd like to sleep with her. He replies that he can't, he's married. The woman replies, "Fine. Your loss. Sorry, I don't get it. Please explain. I hate you, you brilliant." A leper walks into a bar and orders a beer. The bartender brings him his beer and poops on him. The leper says, "Look, I know I have a disease that's kinda gross, so I'll just leave." The bartender says, "No, it's not you. I'm bringing you another and it's on the house." Brings him another beer and barfs on him again. The leper says, "Look, I'm just going to leave. Thanks for trying to be nice, but my disease is obviously bothering you." Bartender says again, "Seriously man, it's not you, so sit down and I'll get you another beer." Bartender brings him another beer and blows chunks all over him yet again. The leper, now very pissed, says, "Fuck this man, you've pooped on me 3 times and I know it's because of my disease. You keep saying it's not me, but I know it is and I'm done with this shit." The bartender says, "Sir, it's not you, I swear. It's the guy next to you. He keeps dipping his chips in your arm." Guy walks into a bar, partly because of the great piano music coming from inside. He goes in, but it takes him some time to find the piano player because he's only a foot tall, playing a tiny piano on a table. He scurries over to the bar. "Where did you get that guy? He's amazing." The bartender gives him a bored look and says, "You want to know where I got that guy? Do ya? The guy nods vigorously. Go in the back room, look on the table. Puzzled, he does as instructed, and there on the table is an old-fashioned straight out of the fairy tales oil lamp. No, but he gives in to curiosity, rubs it, and sure enough, an old genie appears in a cloud of smoke. Oh man, it's good to get out of there, he says, stretching and blinking. Oh, hi, you get a wish. Really? Oh my god. How about $1 million? No, wait, do this right. $1 million. The genie shrugs. Suit yourself. Suddenly the room starts filling with colors. Dog, cat, horse, and ox colors, clerical and old-fashioned celluloid colors, any kind of color you can imagine. The guy runs out the door and slams it before he's smothered in colors. He strides back to the bar and steams. That is the worst goddamn genie I've ever heard of. The barkeep smirks, gesturing at the piano player. You think I asked for a 12 pianist? A man walks into a bar. Hey bartender, I bet you $50 I can spit on my own eye. It being a slow night, the bartender accepts the bet. The man then immediately pulls out his glass eye and hawks a loogie on it. Bullshit, yells the bartender. I'm not paying you jack for that. Without skipping a beat, the man offers another bet. Double or nothing if I can touch your ceiling without jumping. The bartender sizes him up and figures there's no way he could achieve that. Fine. Go ahead. The man then unscrews his prosthetic hand and pitches it towards the ceiling. Bullshit, 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 screams the bartender. Get the hell out of my bar. The man calmly screws his hand back on and offers one final wager. Okay, there's no way for me to cheat you on this one. I bet you $200 that I can piss in your smallest shot glass without spilling a drop on your bar. The bartender thinks it over. Alright. You better not have a mechanical dick or nothing. The bartender slams down the narrowest shot glass he has. A crowd of onlookers begins to form as the man jumps upon the bar and unzips his pants. Then, he begins pissing uncontrollably all over the bar and the patrons. Not a single drop makes it into the shot glass. The bartender is laughing uncontrollably as the man forks over the $200. The man sits down calmly like nothing happened, ignoring the looks of disgust and anger from the rest of the customers. The man orders a drink with a big grin on his face. You seem pretty happy for a guy that just lost $200. The man looks at the bartender and points to the back of the bar. You see that guy in the booth sobbing. I bet him $5,000 that I could pee all over your customers and make you laugh about it.